Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for those who are joining us live on Facebook or after on our podcast. We are so happy to be here today with Dr. C.B. Esselstyn. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. C.B. Esselstyn, he received his AB from Yale University in 1956 and his MD from Western Reserve University School of Medicine in 1961. In 1956, he received a gold medal in rowing at the Olympic Games. In 1968, as an Army surgeon in Vietnam, he was awarded the Bronze Star. He trained as a surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic and has been associated with the Cleveland Clinic since 1961. He was president of the staff and a member of the Board of Governors. He was chairman of the Breast Cancer Task Force and head of the section of thyroid and parathyroid disease. He's won many, many awards. He also received the 2015 Plantrician Project Luminary Award, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award. His scientific publications number over 150. His pioneering research is summarized best in his best-selling Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. In July 2014, his study of 200 patients confirms an even larger group can be adherent to plant-based nutrition and achieve the same significant arrest and reversal of disease. He currently directs the Cardiovascular Disease Prevention and Reversal Seminar at the Cleveland Clinic Center of Wellness and Preventative Medicine. So welcome to the show. We also wanted to wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
Of course.
My pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. It was great to have you at the Shamayim Jewish Vegan Retreat a decade ago, and we're thrilled to learn from you briefly again today. And my first question for those who haven't been as exposed to you is what initially inspired you toward plant-based advocacy?
Well, that gets a little involved. I was at the Cleveland Clinic in late 1970s. I was chairman of the breast cancer task force, and it increasingly disillusioned me that no matter how many women I was doing breast surgery for, I was doing absolutely nothing the next unsuspecting victim. And that led to a bit of global research, which confirmed that there were multiple cultures where breast cancer rates were 30 and 40 times less frequent than the United States. For instance, in rural Japan in 1950s, breast cancer was very infrequently identified. And yet, as soon as the Japanese women would migrate to the United States by the second and third generation, they now had the same rate of breast cancer as their Caucasian counterpart. And perhaps even more compelling was cancer of the prostate. In the entire nation of Japan in 1958, how many autopsy-proven deaths were there from cancer of the prostate in the entire nation of Japan? 18. The most mind-boggling public health figure I think I've ever encountered. And yet by 1978, 20 years later, they were up to 137, which still pales in comparison to the 28,000 who will die this year from prostate cancer in this country. So it was about this time that I noted that there were multiple cultures where cardiovascular disease, the leading killer of women and men in Western civilization, was virtually non-existent. And it dawned on me there would be much more bang for the buck if we could have people eat to save themselves from heart disease. They'd also probably markedly diminish the likelihood of having the common Western cancers of breast, prostate, and colon. And but you can't just sort of shout to the hills and say, stop eating the Western diet. You've got to make this happen through research. And that's when I got started and was able to start the research program with the cooperation of the Department of Cardiology for sending me just a few patients, about 24, which is how we started, which is a small number, but I still had all my surgical responsibilities, so that's why it was a small. But whether it was small or not, it clearly showed us fairly rapidly how profoundly exciting it could be for patients who committed to whole food plant-based nutrition to halt and often reverse their disease.
That's amazing. I always hear about people say how they reversed, their disease or whatever was going on with plant-based diets, but it's even better to hear that there's actual research to back that up and everything. But we wanted to ask you also, what if anything has changed in your thinking over the decades?
Change in my thinking. Oh my. Well, give me an idea of a start. What do you want it to be, and how much I exercise? Do you want it to be how I relate to the cardiologists who obviously I'm an enormous threat.
Maybe just the most radical change.
The most radical change, my age.
In terms of persuasion, I mean, we can have as much research as we want, but that doesn't always persuade. What types of argumentation have you seen be the most effective and persuasive?
Well, I think that you're going to be on the losing end if you're going to start arguing with patients. I think the thing that, if you look at our last paper that we wrote in 2014, we had some 200 patients, and 2 were lost to follow-up, so we had 198. Of that 198, 177 of those patients over that close to 4-year follow-up were there was 177, or really 89.3%, almost 90%, were compliant with our program. And the way that you're going to get patients to make a lifestyle change, you've got to show them respect. And the only way that I know to show a patient respect is to give them our time. So in the present format that we've developed, when patients come, the seminar that I conduct for them is 5 hours, often 5.5 to 6, but often 5 hours. They're going to learn all about how they have created this disease. And they're also going to be taught how to become the locus of control to halt and reverse this disease. And that's absolutely key, to show the patient the mechanism of the disease. For instance, somebody's had a heart attack. They want to know, how did I get this heart attack? You got it by the fact that over the years, the way you were eating progressively injured the delicate innermost lining of the artery called the endothelium. And what the endothelium does when it's working right is it produces this magic molecule of gas called nitric oxide. And it is nitric oxide that is responsible for the salvation, preservation, and protection of all of our blood vessels because of its remarkable functions. So if once you can get a patient to understand and say to themselves, I got my heart attack because I destroyed enough of my endothelial cells that I ran out of nitric oxide to protect me. So once they get that understood, why would anybody come up to me after they've heard this association and say, gee, Dr. Esselstyn, that's very interesting to know that I got my heart attack because I destroyed my endothelial cells to the point where I lost out on enough nitric oxide to protect me. But in a couple of weeks, Lois and I are going to go down and have our 30th anniversary. And of course, you know that I'm going to be destroying a few more endothelial cells then. What? Anybody who has a brain in their head, who knows that this disease can kill them, when they understand that they are empowered, because with all due respect, none of the drugs, none of the stents, none of the bypasses have one single solitary thing whatsoever to do with the causation of the illness.
Very interesting. So what are some trends today that make you optimistic in terms of people changing? And what are some trends that make you more pessimistic in terms of, people not changing as fast as we would think?
Well, that all comes really down individually, because often patients who recognize that they're getting better, that their chest pain is going away, they can't help but resist to share this information with friends or colleagues, because almost everybody, when they get to be in their 60s and so forth, have friends who have heart disease, and they're able to when they're able to show them that there are rock solid ways that you can halt and even reverse this, it can be pretty empowering. And also there are groups of physicians. Now there's several thousand in a group called the Plantnutrition Group, which I'm a member of, all of whom are aware of the value of plant-based nutrition, and another group called the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which really has, again, several thousand members. So when you have increasingly thousands of members of physicians, that really should point the way to this should go in the right direction.
So last question for you. We're celebrating the holiday of Hanukkah right now. And on Hanukkah, we eat a lot of latkes. Latkes have basically two ingredients, potatoes and oil. And I wonder what your view is on oil and if there's any oils you recommend over others. Some people say seed oils are more inflammatory. And if you have any thought on how people might celebrate Hanukkah with latkes.
Yeah, because right now you're killing yourselves.
Right.
Because oil's a killer. I wrote a paper that was published in the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention, and I entitled it, "Is Oil Healthy?" And in that paper, I review all the animal studies and the human studies showing how oil injures endothelial cells. See if we can't, because I know the Jewish people have a lot of heart disease. Okay, I'm not going to blame it all on Hanukkah, but it's what they do in between the Hanukkah feast. But just so that they know and understand right now, if your audience remembers nothing else, remember the mechanism of the production of the disease. The injury to the endothelium, not enough nitric oxide to protect you.
Beautiful. Well, we're so grateful for your time and for all the writing and advocacy you've done over the decades. And in Judaism, we give the blessing to 120. So we hope you have 30 years more teaching and beyond. And thank you for your time.
All right, listen, you guys, be well. Take care. Thank you so
much. Well, take care. Thank you.